I'm a very CLI guy. That should be my DJ name. But I've been doing this stuff for 30 years. And actually, I've been using CLI or terminals for, I think, 40 years since my very first computers in the mid 80s that were writing BASIC. And we basically had a green screen or even a gray screen because I was using a TV with my Sinclair, which go look that up. I went on to Tandy Color computers and then finally got an x86. But ever since then, I've been dealing with HP Unix and AT&T Unix and all sorts of Linux variants, Unix variants, even FreeBSD or BSD variants. Those were all primarily, even Solaris way back in the day, they were primarily terminal experiences. Like the GUI was an add-on. It was an extra optional thing. So when we start using harnesses, agent harnesses like Claude Code and Codex and Copilot and all the other wonderful ones, the Pies, the Open Codes, the Hermes, the OpenClaws, these are all primarily right now, at least, TUIs first or TUIs. And I am in search of something more, but I don't want to go full GUI. I don't want to go completely native to the web experience or to the Electron web version of a desktop app, or even maybe the native apps that are being built. Maybe someday. I think maybe I'll eventually just get used to not having the shell when the agents truly are just doing everything for us and I can just talk to them all day. And I'm already doing a lot of that, but I wanted something beyond just Claude Code in 1,000 tabs across my machine. And I found it. It's Supacode. And that's what I've been sticking with for at least a month, maybe 2 months now. And I'm no longer using Ghosty. Or am I still using Ghosty? Let's talk about it. If we back up a second and just talk about Ghosty, and if you haven't heard about Ghosty, it's a great replacement on all the operating systems for whatever you were using before. And I was using iTerm for, I think, 17 years since my first Mac in 2009. I immediately went to iTerm. It's still great. It's got a million features. And we've just gotten to a point that we don't necessarily need all those features for a proper terminal emulator in modern programming and in modern UI experiences. So Ghosty feels a little lighter. It feels easier to configure. It feels maybe a little faster, although I feel like really iTerm was super fast, but there's maybe a few milliseconds in there of speed improvement in Ghosty. I haven't looked at the benchmarks. But late last year, I finally switched to Ghosty, and that's made by Mitchell Hashimoto of HashiCorp fame, and this is his new passion. So when he created the brand new terminal that hadn't existed before, I think 4 years ago, it was an early days thing that I just wasn't ready for because it didn't have all the features that I used in iTerm, and I was waiting for it to catch up with some of the major features of iTerm. And that finally happened in 2025. So I have switched. That is my daily driver until I started to look at all the other apps out there that are built on libghostty. Have you heard of libghostty? So Ghosty is great. Ghosty is the GUI, but libghostty is the magic behind Ghosty. And Mitchell was super smart in his approach on how he thought his project was going to impact the future of terminals and terminal applications, because his vision was correct. He hoped that if he made a library that was the core, complicated, crazy stuff that terminals have to do, and he put all that work into the complexity of a library, and then the UI that's different on Linux, where it's probably GTK, and it's on Mac as a totally Swift or different UI programming API versus Windows. Like those are all just going to be shells on top of this core library. That was a great idea because it turns out just a few years after libghostty has been released, we now have dozens and dozens of projects all using it and creating unique terminal experiences, which means you now have dealer's choice. You can spend all of your time. You can spend one day a week picking a new terminal app based on libghostty, and it would take you over a year to get through them all. And that's just today. Like we've got new ones showing up all the time. We've got classic, dependable ones. We've got new agentic focused ones, which is the point of Supacode and the point of this video. So in this video, I am going to walk you through my daily driver, the one app that I spend more time on than anything else other than a browser, and why I switched. Now, if we just go and look at all the libghostty projects out there, there's a great awesome list out here called Awesome libghostty. And there is, I don't even know if it's up to date, but it is a lot. There is tons of stuff. But what I'm really focused on is not all of those wonderful web things and other apps, but these specific AI tools and agent orchestration tools. Now, Supacode is what I'm calling a agent harness session manager. It is a long name that we need something better for. In the last couple of months, we've identified that something like Claude Code is an agent harness. We might just say agent for short, but technically it's a harness because inside it has multiple agents and you can create custom agents. So there's many agents that you can put into Claude Code. They all do a little bit different things. And to me, an agent is four things. It is the combination of permissions of what it can do, the model choice, a system prompt, and the tools it has access to. And you can, in all the harnesses, you can add all your own little agents or just use the ones that come out of the box. I also use OpenCode. Last I checked, it came with 2 agents inside it, and then a bunch of sub-agents that do very niche things. So we call those things harnesses. All I'm looking for is an improvement on the base ghostty terminal experience that gives me terminal first. I still love my terminal. I still love ghostty. And yet I want some Chrome around it that helps me manage all the different agents I'm running, when they need my attention, which ones I'm working on. And because we're all in agent mode right now where we're all just running all these different things, and it just ends up with tab hell if you're in Ghosty or iTerm or some other thing like Windows Terminal. We just have too many tabs and we don't want to close them because we've got the session state in them of that app and we've just got too much to keep track of. So we need something that's a little bit better. And if you've ever heard of CMux, which is another one from this list, CMux I learned about actually from Theo here on YouTube earlier, I think at the beginning of the year. And CMux is a project that has a lot of potential, but I really didn't like the UI itself. I liked that it was very terminal centric. It uses Ghosty as the backend with libghostty, which is great because I love that. It's very performant. These things all tend to use the same Ghosty config file so that you can hop between the different libghostty apps. And they all bring in your fonts and your keyboard shortcuts that are custom, or the particular size of your font that you want to use, or your theme. The theme is the most important thing. But this UI didn't feel great to me. I didn't like the left side menu very much. It had lots of verbiage in it that didn't really help me. It was a lot of small print that didn't really mean much in helping me manage my different sessions. But it did have a web preview, which is pretty slick, although I don't really tend to use that. But somewhere in the early first quarter of this year, I learned about Supacode. And Supacode is my new agent harness session manager. And so its job is to be a terminal first, terminal primary, not give me 1,000 features that I don't need, just focus on the terminal and helping me manage possibly 50 or more terminal windows open, tabs and different panes and sub panes and all the different things I need to do. And also keep track of maybe some of the basic stuff like, am I in a Git repo? Are there uncommitted changes? Maybe throw in a little bit of GitHub fanciness, or maybe help me manage the different state of my agents and whether they're looking for attention or the execution of the task I gave them is over and waiting for the next prompt. So that's exactly what Supacode is. And I think it's a perfect match for those of us that are terminal first. Let's get into it. Now, at first glance, you might notice that it looks almost like Ghosty because it is. It is underneath libghostty. So it's going to pull in that config automatically. It's going to have my theme, my prompt, of course, but we'll get to the Chrome around the outside in a second. What I want you to know is first, it has all the same shortcuts. So I can Command Tab on Mac for a new tab. I can Command D for a new pane. I can Command Shift D to get a pane below that. These are all things that were in iTerm and Ghosty long before this. So it's all works there. If you're not the keyboard person, you also have these little buttons up there that are nice that allows you to make more, and you can make new tabs. So that experience hasn't changed. But the main feature that I like about it is the sidebar. And this is all of my directories and projects that I deal with. We might have the tabs and the panes that we're used to with Ghosty or iTerm or Terminal or whatever, but this is a new layer of abstraction on top of that. So for each one of these projects, and it doesn't have to be a Git project, which is key. There's lots of other apps out there that use Worktrees and Git repos, and they're very focused on Git projects. They don't work unless you have a Git project. I need a regular terminal. I just want something that acts like a terminal that gives me a few extra features. So Supacode is that right balance there. So this directory, you can see I'm in this code directory. You'll notice that the logo here is a folder because this is not a Git repo. This is just a folder. I can add this here. I can even move it around. I can order these manually in the list. I can color them. The colors really are just me being fun. They don't mean anything to me. You can right click and customize appearance, change the name of it so it doesn't follow the exact name of the directory if you want to call it something else, or you can give it a neat little color. I have it on red, and I can even pin it to the top, that whole pinning thing. It's cool. And I can put that up at the top because maybe this is where I always want to be inside my code directory. But if I want to manage a Git project, that's what the rest of these are. You can tell by the logos where these are Git branches. So let's go into this one. In this one, I have a bunch of tabs and a bunch of panes, and it's defaulting to the main branch because that's the checkout I'm in. I'm in a GitHub clone of a GitHub repo that is sitting here, and this is the main branch. Now, if I change branches at the command line, it will change this line right here and be the name of that other branch. In fact, you can see that down here in this other Git repo that I've checked out, and I'm on a non-main branch, and I've actually got a PR open that has some GitHub action failures in the checks. And you can see that this lights up, if you let it, with some GitHub knowledge, and it knows what PR I'm in. I can click that to go to it. It knows that the PR checks have failed. You notice that the logo is actually a little different. It's the PR logo, not the Git branch logo. And then I get this wonderful little thing up at the top here. You see this little window up here, this little, I don't know, what do you want to call this? The notch. This notch in the title bar. And it's telling me that my GitHub action checks have partially failed. I can hover over it and I can get the full list of checks. I don't have to sit on the PR page. I can click this and it takes me to the PR page, but I don't need to go there. I can do a lot of this stuff here. I can't comment on the issue or whatever. I can't argue with the Copilot AI bot, but I can get at least the basics here. And it just does that through a couple of mechanisms. One, in the settings, it will OAuth to your GitHub so that it just has access to those. But it also, in some ways, uses the GH command line tool, which if you didn't know, the GH command line tool has a auth or an API specific ability where it'll let any other app pull essentially a token to get auth into GitHub without that app needing its own authentication to GitHub separately. It also, this serves as some other little things like the time and the current weather conditions and whether it's night or day. You can see that it's very early in the morning for me and that it's telling me that what time it is and all that. So I can switch around to all these, and you'll see a couple other niceties on this window where I can edit my code because if I don't want to use Vim, which is my go-to, but if I want to use a GUI, I can pull it up in all these other apps just by clicking the button, and I can configure scripts for each repo inside the settings of Supacode so that if I need to run Docker Compose automatically or dev servers or whatever I need, I can put those in globally for the whole app and have a universal thing or per repo configuration there. I have not really spent too much time on that, but I think that's a really cool feature that if I was more of an app developer day to day, all day long, I would probably use that. Now you'll notice this also ties in with the agents because this is the whole reason for this, is to help us with the agent management. So the agent harnesses also, at least the major ones, get a little bit of a plugin ability where it's putting in hooks. So this does three different things, three things that are special about harnesses, or it hooks and helps with the harnesses. The first one is it recognizes when harnesses are run via hooks that it can, if you let it, optionally plug in through the settings. If we just go look at that, you can see here under, under developer, you can see that I've enabled it for Claude Code and for Pi. I haven't installed it in Codex yet, but essentially it just puts hooks into the app so that it does a couple of things. One, it helps with notifications and toast so that your Supacode knows more about when your agent is ready for you and what it's doing currently. So it will infer a lot of the details about what's going on in the agent harness to pull out into the GUI and then into your Mac notifications up in the top right. And you'll see here in the settings where it configures the hooks into each of the agents. It only supports 4 agent harnesses right now, but those hooks really help with the intelligence of it knowing what's going on. Secondly, it has its own CLI. So if I'm in, let me go over here, and it has a Supacode CLI, and I can list all the different directories that it's in. I can do a bunch of different things, but it's honestly, the CLI isn't meant for me. It's meant for the agents to manage this app while I'm in it. So it's a little bit of a meta situation where the thing running in the app is managing the app itself. And the thing that I use it the most for is when I'm already in an agent and I just tell it, hey, could you open up this directory in a Supacode new project? And it will create a new one in here, which I could always just click the plus button up here and do that. But it lets me do that through the agent. And it'll also manage Worktrees. Now, I'll be honest. Git Worktrees is something that I've tried several times over the last year, as I've heard they're cool and necessary when you're doing agentic development. And they just didn't really stick with me because the commands were a little complicated and I didn't really get it all. And this is the first app that made it so simple, and it's pretty basic in its functionality for Worktrees, but you set a location on your hard drive in settings where you want it to put all Worktrees. And then when you're in the app and you're in a particular project, just like this one I'm in right now, I can hit the plus symbol and add a new work tree. I create the branch at the same time. It goes and does all the work, and the agent can do it for me because it comes with a skill that knows how to use the CLI. And so it inherently knows how to manage itself from the agent out to the Supacode GUI. And so I just drive the GUI a lot of times with the agent. It's also got a command palette, Command P. Did I mention that? So you can move between these just by typing their names or the branches like eval, and you can jump around through all this stuff. You'll notice in this project over here on the left that I've got 3 here, and that's because I've got 3 work trees. I couldn't have 3 branches checked out at the same time without work trees. So this has created multiple work trees for me, and I can hop between them just like I hop between projects in different directories. So these all are in addition to the tabs and the panes that you would normally get with any other terminal. So that's why I look at this as another layer of abstraction. A few other niceties that it has, besides minimizing this window when I just want to focus, I just get rid of the sidebar. A couple other things that it can do is you notice that it's got the logo of Claude Code here. So when I come in the morning, a couple of things happen. One, any sessions that I had running overnight, I will see the logo of, if it's one of the 4 supported agent harnesses, it'll see the logo there. So I'll know that's one that was active. And then anything that's active or been pinned is always going to be at the top. So you'll notice that this one, because it's an active session, it sits up here at the top. And if I was over here in the active window and I exited, it will go back into the list. And this is a setting you can set if you like it this way. And I prefer that it does that. So when I'm ever in a Claude Code session, it rises to the top so I can focus at the top of the list rather than all the other projects that are maybe something that I haven't touched in weeks. Now, a few other niceties that it's had added recently was support for ZMX, and ZMX is kind of like a tmux. Essentially, it's a different way of thinking of how you manage sessions. And what it allows is 2 things. One, when you kill and restart Supacode, you get back all of the history of each one of your terminal tabs or panes. And then in addition, if anything was actively running, like a Claude Code, those stay persistent, running in the background on your machine through ZMX. And then when you bring back Supacode, they're still there running as if you never left. So that feels very tmuxy to me. And the ZMX has been used, I think, on a lot of other projects as well. So it's not necessarily a new thing. And it's certainly not unique to Supacode. But they added that recently, and that was pretty nice. If you're someone who's interested in the options that are out here, Supacode so far is the best one I've found. There are certainly higher levels of tooling that are pure GUI or more feature rich that are a little overwhelming for me. Sometimes there's just too many buttons and too much stuff. And I will not pick on necessarily these 2 as the only offenders, but Superset, not to be confused with Supacode, but Superset is also a very similar experience in terms of it being a terminal for your agent harnesses. And it's got a bunch of cool little things, like on the right side, you can see the file list of diffs, basically what's been changed in your Git. You can review and do more work that is GUI based, but I just use lazy git from the shell. And over in mine, you'll see in a lot of projects where I might be in this window, but then I'm just going to be in this other window running lazy git. And I'm just going to put that over to the side and drag that to be this small little window so that when I'm in my agent, I can see all of my diff and essentially what files are being changed in real time. I just do that from the terminal. That's what I've always done. I'm used to that. Not that's bad or worse, but you'll notice over on Superset that there's just a lot going on here. And in fact, I think right now the worst one I've seen is OpenChamber. Now, OpenChamber, I just recently learned about. It's a pretty sexy looking app, I admit. It looks really good. And it's only for OpenCode. So if you're someone who's into the OpenCode, I've got videos on this channel about OpenCode. But OpenCode runs in a client-server model, so it acts like Claude Code, but you can technically run it headless and then connect to it from a bunch of different clients, including GUIs and TUIs and WUIs. That's Web UI. And it's got 1,000 buttons in it. So it's one of the things about it that I don't like is that I get distracted by the UI and all the wonderful, playful things on it. It's a pretty cool front end for OpenCode, I'd admit, and it's not got a terminal in it. Technically, it does have a terminal, but terminal is kind of like VS Code. It's like an afterthought. It just comes in at the bottom. It's not the primary user experience. But there are reasons you might want this. It is better when you're dealing with images and formatting of things, and not everything is limited to the TUI experience. It lets you have a rich experience, rich text and nicer things, but I'm fine. I've just been so used to the terminal for decades that this doesn't feel necessary to me yet, but I can feel the pull of all these niceties and all the little add-ons and features that it has inside of the GUI. You might just argue that all we need is the agent, and the agent can do all that stuff for us. It doesn't need to show all these things because the agent should drive all this stuff. And you don't even need the buttons because the agent will do it. Whatever. Dealer's choice. You can see by going back to the list that there is a lot of choice here that you can spend your summer on, just going through all these amazing projects. They're in alphabetical order, so it would be interesting to rank them by popularity to find the good ones and filter out the ones that are maybe dead or not very developed and not well supported. But I find the Supacode is all of that. It's well supported. They respond in issues pretty quickly to the things that I've suggested, and I think you should give them a try. All right, if you have any questions, throw them in the comments. I might be able to answer your questions. I don't know every single feature, and I've not tried every single thing in Supacode, but if you have questions on how it compares to other things or what you would want to try to do in it and you want me to answer those questions, feel free. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.